I get this question from many seekers about the conflict that one experiences after spiritual awakening. And I have addressed this topic in the past, but somehow there seems to be a lot of confusion around it. So spiritual awakening is a crack in the structure of the personality. And when that happens, there arises a conflict, a deep conflict, a pain, a suffering that is intense in nature. Many people have this wrong idea that spiritual awakening is a blissful experience. Far from it. When this happens, when the awareness grips you, a lot of turmoil, emotional turbulence is experienced. Life does not become easy. In fact, life becomes very tough initially. And that is the reason why when Buddha awakened after seeing misery all around, he went for deep practice of meditation, deep sadhana, to understand his own nature. If awakening made him blissful, what would be the need of coming out with 4 principles, 4 truths, noble truths? He did experience a lot of suffering after awakening. And finally, the 4 noble truths that came out were the deliverance that he received, the insight that he received. And so was the case with Sri Ramana Maharishi, when as a child he experienced that he was beyond this mind and body. Now, after that experience as a teenager, he left for Mount Arunachala, where he practiced meditation for many, many years. He lived in solitude for many years. Now, if he was awakened and blissful instantly, what would be the need? After awakening, seeker experiences this confusion, this conflict, because things don't make sense anymore. Whatever you were told about the world, whatever blueprint you were given about life, living, that now doesn't seem to appear as solid as it was told to you. You were told that you can go for the material pursuits and you will find all the happiness if you follow the blueprint. Education, family, marriage, and all that. But even after all of that, there is no peace, is there? There is still conflict. Then most of us are told that if you attain the ultimate, the enlightenment, then somehow this pain of existence will vanish. Now, awakening is a dent, is a crack into the structure of this entire personality. That means when the awakening happens, your whole world begins to crumble. The world of ideas, thoughts, concepts, beliefs, ideologies begins to crumble. And now you don't see too much meaning into maintaining those old friendships, associations, and sometimes even deep relationships begin to break down as a result. And by the society, we are told that there is something wrong, that we are in depression. Now, there is a marked difference between depression and what results as a spiritual awakening. In depression, one experiences lows most of the time, followed by moments of happiness. But in awakening, you will experience that you experience the highs of highs and lows of lows. In one way, what is termed as depression is awakening. So it is same, yet it is different. Different in the sense that in depression there is constantly this feeling that I am not being understood, I am not being heard. But in awakening there is no such thought. There is simply conflict about the concepts and ideas that have been fed to us by the society. That we should do like this, we should behave like that, we should follow this ideology, we should reject that ideology, we should follow a particular religion, we should follow a particular food habit. And somehow society tries to make the perfect human. But perfection does not exist. And pressure by the society to make the human being perfect actually destroys the inner capacity and creativity which we all have. So, this sense of separateness, that I am depressed, nobody's interested in my thoughts and views, nobody understands me, that begins to dissolve in spiritual awakening, that it is not so intense. There is this confusion that what I must do with my life. I don't know what to do anymore because things don't make sense. So it is not so much about me and my need to be seen or validated. It is more about what must be done. What is this life about? The nature of inquiry is a bit different in spiritual awakening. So one experiences what is told in the scriptures as the classic dark night of the soul, where one questions existence, one questions these highs and lows that one experiences on this path. Sometimes things seem in perfect union. It seems that everything is one and whole and complete. But in the next moment, one may feel that it's completely fragmented. It's completely broken. The world is broken. And then we pick incidents that are happening around us, like wars. And we say, look, the world is broken. What am I doing with my life? I must do something. Am I wasting my life? I'm not being productive. But all of these questions are a diversion from this movement, I or me, that is at the center of it. We never question who is this me, and there lies our pain and suffering. The moment our attention turns inwards into this sense of separateness or me, we notice that this entity is not so concrete as it appears to be. So my friendships, my relationships, my values, my ideas, my job, my business, these all things remain, and it's okay. Some remain, some drop away, and it's all fine. But the sense of centeredness is not so strong anymore. The hold on it is not so strong anymore. So turning inwards into this sense of me or I is deliverance. As this image begins to fade, more and more peace is experienced. So there is a marked difference between spiritual awakening and what is termed as deliverance of the insight. Awakening is simply a crack in the structure. When Buddha saw the four sides, the four suffering. There was a crack in his structure. Did the Buddha awaken? No, nobody awakens. And this is the gross misconception. It is not that the person awakens. The awakening happens, and awakening is an impersonal phenomena. It is an impersonal happening to no one. Awakening is this insight, this pure knowledge that is available here and now, and once it is seen for what it is, it begins to dissolve all concepts about duality. The question of right and wrong, bad and good, virtue and vice, moral, immoral, all these questions begin to dissolve. Now one still proceeds with a set of values and structures because that is required for daily living. But one is not caught up in that entire movement. One can clearly see that it is just a tool to navigate this life. But the tool by itself is not the means to liberation. Liberation is your true nature. It is here and now. There's no need to use any tool as such to reach there. So what happens is, there is an end of measure. What is measure? Measure is, this is what I am right now. I am this human being with all my imperfectness. I feel unworthy. I feel unloved. I feel I'm not good enough. I feel I'm not spiritual enough. So I believe in my own limitation. I believe that I'm this limited mind-body organism that is meant to suffer on this plane and then ultimately die. This is the notion that the separate self or me believes before awakening. Now, after awakening, this notion begins to crack down as well. But again, the mind habitually comes up with anxiousness and nervousness of the past. So now there is measure between what I am right now and what I should be. So this mind creates this dualistic split between what I am right now, limited, unworthy, etc., etc. And then I think that through spiritual practices, through philosophical understandings, through clever arguments, through philosophizing, I'm going to reach another level. And that level will be, I become a perfect human being without any flaws. I do not get upset. I do not get angry. Nothing perturbs me. I become completely emotionally resilient. I become completely indifferent to life, which is nothing but just another image. So this, you see, this subject, the image that I think I am right now, and this object, the image that I want to be in the future. And I see enlightenment, the idea of enlightenment, as a perfect tool to become that image. So my whole spiritual practice is oriented towards becoming something. Either it's becoming or it's unbecoming. I feel I'm anxious and nervous right now, and I perceive that as a flaw. And then I say that, oh, I must become calm. I must become completely emotionally numb. And then it'll all be fine. Then I will be in this perfect peace, in this perfect bliss. The concept here is that spiritual awakening creates a crack in this subject-object relationship. So it is painful because I thought of myself as this human being, as this limited mind-body organism that is trying to become perfect through this life's practice. And awakening shows us that we do not need to become perfect. In fact, imperfection is by design of nature, so that life as we know can happen. If we were perfect, if we were all perfect, life as we know would not happen. If we did not know pain and suffering, we would never know happiness. To know the peace of happiness, we have to know the suffering. That means Imperfections are required in life so that learning can happen. And the greatest learning is that there is nothing to become or unbecome. You simply are here and now, perfectly whole, complete, vast, infinite. That is your nature. And you remain unaffected by what is happening. It is just that sometimes your nervous system gets so much stimulated, your mind becomes so much restless, and you believe in that mind. And then you say that I am experiencing dark night of the soul and I am in a lot of pain and agony. This pain and agony can be dropped this instant. You can, quote unquote, achieve enlightenment. I don't like to use that word, but enlightenment or awakening or whatever you want to call it, as Papaji said, in a millionth of a second. That means awakening is not an event in time. It is an impersonal happening. Impersonal means it is not based on time. Only the person is based on time. So any notion of self-improvement in time is a part of the illusion. You are perfect and whole as you are right now. So in the end, what happens is that the seeker stops trying to become or unbecome something, and at some point questions, who is this me that is experiencing depression, anxiety, pain, suffering? What is the nature of this me? And when this happens, when the I inverts on itself, that means it is not allowed to flow as I am this or I am that, but the total attention is on the I itself. That is the time when it merges in its own source, which is infinite, which is beingness, as was propounded by Sri Ramana Maharishi. And one of his favorite quotes is, your job is not to be this or that, your job is to be. In that being, the deliverance will happen. In that being, the knowledge that is required for you will happen. Because your mind cannot grasp the immensity of the universe's law, the law, the karmic law, the basis of it, you can never understand with your limited mind. The more you try to exercise intellect, you will make this tool sharper, which means any concept that is thrown on you, you will try to cut it into two, into subject and an object, because that is what mind does. And the sharper the intellect, the more, the more potently you do this process. Anything that is told to you, you do not believe it, you immediately create the opposite. If somebody tells you, do this practice, you immediately come up with an opposing thought, but why should I do this practice? And your mind gets split into multiple fragments. One says it is good, another says it is not good. One says, don't be concerned with it. Other says, no. Grab it. Otherwise, you're just wasting your life. So you see, you are living in constant mental activity. And this mental activity is generating heat, is quite a wastage of energy, as the masters would say. When this mental activity subsides, what you will notice is that you will have a pure mind. The pure mind that is not concerned with an outcome, but that is simply operating spontaneously, working on a task at hand. So it is just concerned with whatever practical steps are required in a given situation. For example, if you have to do a creative work, then your mind will completely come up with steps that are required for creative work without worrying about the result of your efforts. The thinking mind will keep you trapped in this back and forth dialogue. What's the use? What's the point? What are you going to get out of it? renounce everything, leave the material world, as if material world is separate from spiritual world. There are no two. There is no material world that is separate from spiritual world. It is all spiritual. It is all spirit. It is all consciousness. The material world is discovered in consciousness. The spiritual world is discovered in consciousness. That is why the Master said, consciousness is all there is. And the understanding of that consciousness or being, Sat Chitananda, eternal consciousness, bliss, is peace. Which means it is not subject to external conditions. No matter what the external condition is, there is always this awareness to go back to your source, which is here and now. It is not at a distant. In fact, thought is at a distance, but your true nature, which is pure awareness, is not at a distance. So where is this question of becoming, unbecoming, purifying oneself? Do practices if you feel like doing, but do them for their own sake. Do it for the preservation of body, for the healthy functioning of body and mind, for the sharpness of mind. And do practices that align with you, with your nature. But to achieve something as ultimate goal, as ultimate prize for hard work, that is an illusion. Nisargadatta Maharaj said that truth is not a result of hard work. It is not that if you work hard, you will attain the truth as a reward for your hard work. It will happen when it's meant to happen. So if you come across these messages, these teachings in some way or the other, that means the universe is trying to convey something. That means the awareness is doing its job. So recognize that what needs to be done is being done by the awareness. You have to do nothing. And then people will say, but what about my life? I have to live my life. I have to work, earn money, pay bills. And I tell them, earn money, pay bills. Nothing wrong with that. In fact, make a good life for yourself. Make a comfortable life for yourself. Earn good money. But do not make money or earning as your sole focus of life. Let those be just byproducts. Whatever you do in life, whether it's creative work or any other work, let those be just byproducts. When you start chasing money in the hope that it will bring me happiness, that it will bring you wholeness, that it will make you secure, that is a trap. Money will not give you any kind of security. The lack of money will give you insecurity because you think you don't have it, because you think possession of money will make you whole. So you work hard, you work desperately, and then you get money. Now when you have money, you will try to protect it at all costs. Now you will say, now I have it, now I have to protect it. So again you will be insecure. So insecurity basically comes from separation. It comes from the idea that I am the limited human being. I'm just limited mind, body, organism that is living a separate and a limited life. When this separation ends, that means when it is understood that there is no separation in anything and all is one consciousness, then this whole insecurity comes to an end, and what is experienced is peace. Now in that, if one makes a lot of money, that's fine. That's absolutely okay. But one does not get tied to that concept. In fact, people become so conscious that they use money for good causes. And I believe, just like anything else, even money can be used for good and bad causes. Some people can use money to spread violence, while others can use money for helping the needy, for helping those who are underprivileged. So it depends on your attitude towards life, towards money. Your peace depends on your attitude towards life. And the attitude towards life, as Ramesh Balsekar said, is that I'm not living my life, but life is being lived through me. So me is just an instrument that is just facilitating this interhuman interaction or life as we know it. Beyond that, there is no me. It is all one consciousness. It is pure knowing, unaffected by anything that is happening externally. So the whole concept is that spiritual awakening does not happen to a person. Person does not awaken. The personality breaks down. When the personality breaks down, wholeness is glimpsed by the wholeness itself. Source alone is the player A and player B, or let's say team A or team B, and the game itself. There is no separation. So once you know your true nature, you can just enjoy the game without worrying about who wins or who loses. But till you are invested in one of the teams, that I identify with team A and I want team A to win, only then I will be happy, then it's a problem. Now, spiritual awakening breaks that notion. Spiritual awakening makes it clear that team A is team B and team B is team A. There is no difference between the two. It does not matter who loses or who wins. It is the consciousness playing the game. It is a consciousness also viewing the game. And there is no agenda to this game. We cannot know on what basis is the game being played, other than to simply participate. So we participate, but we do not get involved. So the game can be enjoyed completely, played with complete enthusiasm and vigor, with full spontaneity and courage, without getting involved in the outcome of the game. At any point, things are not in our control. And when we let go of these thoughts about my attaining this, achieving that, becoming better through material acquisitions or through spiritual awakening, I begin to rest in my own nature, which is peace, which is here and now. Then this whole movement comes to an end. But till I am invested in a thought by nature which is divisive, I will experience duality. Because when things will work in my favor, I will be happy. But when things do not work in my favor, which is mostly the case, I will be unhappy. So what am I to do? Well, nothing, just watch the game. Watch what happens. And for those who are worried about a future outcome, but what about my earning money? What about my taking up a job? I'm not doing anything productive with my life. Well, the circumstances will guide you to the right job. If you are quiet, if you are aware, attentive, then you will find your true calling. But if you are operating with an anxious energy, the energy of separation, you will end up choosing something that you do not resonate with. And then you will spend years on it and finally decide that it's not for you. And this I speak from personal experience. So when you give up the idea of trying to become better, you realize that you already are perfect and whole in this nature, in your nature. And that is the deliverance, the final deliverance of spiritual awakening. Awakening will not get rid of your conflicts. Awakening will bring up the conflict, and that is required. Because without conflict, there will be no self-reflection, and without self-reflection, there will be no peace. Shravan, Manan, and Nididhyasana. Shravan is acquisition of the information by listening or any form of consumption. Manan is self-reflection. Self-reflection does not mean that you're using intellect. It simply means you're witnessing, you're watching what is happening without putting any label on anything. You're simply watching. And nididhyasana is complete absorption into the being. That means you're completely detached with what is happening. And you rest into your purity, into your nature, which is here and now. And that pure knowledge remains unaffected, because that pure knowledge is not tied to the ideas and beliefs of the person. So you no more believe in your limitation after spiritual awakening. But mind, habitually conditioned with a lot of past conditioning, suffers. There is a lot of pain and suffering initially. And then this whole thing begins to break down, which Ramesh ji called deliverance. That is when the doer entity questions itself. If I am not the doer of my actions, then who is this me? And that is the last question. That is the final question. There is no answer to that question. If an answer comes to that question, that I am this or I am that, we are still identified with the mind's movement. But when there is no answer and complete silence, we simply rest into our true nature, which is infinite ocean of unconditional love.